everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Jacob in Wisconsin, here to talk Green Bay Packers. We got a little bit of updated information on the Jeff Hafley situation. Is he gone? Is he going to be the next head coach in Miami? Is he going to remain the defensive coordinator in Green Bay? If he does take the job in Miami, who's going to replace him? We're going to do a quick little deep dive into that as we got a little bit more information come out from the result of his interview that he had in Miami. Surprise, he crushed it, right? It's obviously not going to catch anybody off guard here. We knew he would interview really, really well. So we're going to dive into all of that. Before we do, if you would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. If you're new here, welcome into PTA. Appreciate you making us a part of your day. We are not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We are fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you look for that type of content, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future events. Jacob, you doing all right today, bub? Uh-oh, Jacob. No sound. We're muted. I think I did that to you during the intro. Go ahead. That was my fault.
Yeah. No. I said yes, sir. It's basically coping with what it is right now to be a Packers fan during this type of this time of the year. It's we wish we were in the game, but we're not. So now we have to focus our sights towards the off season. And to be fair, I mean, this is honestly probably my favorite time of year is when we actually have a little more kind of traction as to what we're going to do into the next season, and everybody's kind of hopeful, and we get to kind of look around and see what's going to happen in the future, whether it be UDFAs, the draft, the combine, off season. Like there's a lot of content to be had, and it's going to be fun. Would I've loved to have been in the playoffs right now and in the game? Of course I would have, but right now we just got to make the best of it and go forward. And here we are today, addressing a situation that was probably coming up on a lot of people's radar. And like you said, surprise, surprise, Hafley interviewed really well. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's jump into it. Waste no more time. Appreciate everybody jumping in here. If you would, hit that like button for us on your way in. Spin the laces on that tater for us, all right? If you don't mind. We would greatly, greatly appreciate that. So, Ron Sample says, my question, who all will Hafley take with him? It's a great question. Now, the beautiful thing about this, Ron, is we can block him from taking our top pick for defensive coordinator if you promote from within. And to me, we're going to talk about all of it. It sounds like that would be DeMarcus Covington, at least how it sits here today. So if we took DeMarcus Covington, there's a good chance I think Hafley could go and take our boy Derek Ansley as his defensive coordinator, right? Also, remember, he loves Coach Ogabasi. Ogabasi was with him at Boston College. He brought him to Green Bay. Maybe that would be his top pick, right? Who knows? But I know some fans are kind of holding out hope. Well, Hafley liked it in Green Bay. Maybe he won't just completely strip the organization down. No, you know how this goes, man. You're gonna bring in any and everybody you possibly can to be your assistant, and no hard feelings. That's just the way that everything works. So here are the tweets. All right. Here is the latest news. Adam Schefter tweeted out the Miami Dolphins are setting up in-person head coaching interviews for early this week, including Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley, which will be his second interview with the team per sources. It's also important to understand that the first interview they had was a virtual interview. So now he's going in-house to meet with them. And we know now, I think it was, what's his name? Can't think of his name. Garofalo over on NFL Network said that he crushed this interview, the first interview. Garofalo also said, and it is worth noting, the Packers have already done diligent work behind the scenes to replace Hafley as well, for whatever that's worth. Okay, so this came out. He gets the second interview. We knew the betting odds were always in Hafley's favor. I was holding out a little bit hope that maybe they would fall in love with another candidate, because Hafley, if if he didn't get the Dolphins job, it sounded like he was not the favorite to get the job anywhere else, right? Or not even in the top 3 favorite to get the job anywhere else. Tom Pelissero kind of reconfirming. They just posted a video saying that what I just told you guys about the interview. And of course, he just said Packers DC Jeff Hafley has emerged as a front runner for the Dolphins head coaching job per sources. No final decisions made. More interviews are scheduled. 4 other teams have requested second interviews with Hafley, but he appears to be a leading candidate in Miami. So the fact that you see 4 other teams here, Jacob, that have requested a second interview with him, Miami probably going to have to make a decision real quick. So I imagine Jeff Hafley will crush the second interview in person, and he will be announced as the next head coach down there, will be my guess. And of course, just a quick look at the Kalshi odds here. Jeff Hafley is now up to 76% chance of being the next Dolphins head coach. Chris Shula is sitting at 11%. So, Jacob, what's your thoughts on that? Anything look different to you before we dive into some of the potential replacements for Jeff Hafley?
No, I mean, this is kind of the type of thing that we expected. Jeff Hafley, we've talked about it throughout the season, how the guy just has a personality around him where it feels like the type of coach that players want to gravitate to. We watched him specifically. What I loved is when I watched him do press conferences, he would kind of, he has that tongue in cheek kind of like coach speak kind of, communication, but he also would actually answer questions, and he would seemingly do like a really good job of deep diving as to why he's explaining what he's explaining. And it's the same kind of thing that people kind of highlighted, that what he does well as a coach is he's not just a coach, he's a teacher, right? And I think that a lot of the NFL elite that are looking to replace a current head coach wants a guy that can come into their organization and actually coach young men, and not just like do this, do that, but explain. What's the why? Why are we doing this? And I think that Jeff Hafley has a unique ability to do that. That's been seen, like you said, from Boston College now into his NFL career. And I think that a lot of NFL organizations are looking for a type of player, type coach, where it's like you can get them motivated because they believe in you. What's the quote you always say, Clayton, is that players don't care what you believe until they know that you
don't eat where you crap, don't crap where you eat, the smell is bad. Now, I always say, I mean, there's a bunch of different lines I've read throughout books, throughout history written on football, but the one that sticks out to me is people don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Right. And I feel like that people really believe that Jeff Hafley cares about them. Like if any coaching staff that's ever been with him, every player that's ever been underneath him. I mean, you look at what Micah said. Micah wanted him to be here for sure. Put that on record. It's tough to think that, I could actually probably push back and say that, Jeff Hafley wasn't exactly the type of coach that we thought he would be, as far as the results-based driven stuff comes up from this last year. But I still think that he's done enough, and he's kind of put a splash into the NFL waters to the point where people are willing to take a chance on him. And forgive me, because is it John, who's the Sullivan? Is it John Michael Sullivan or
John Eric Sullivan?
John Eric. It's the country singer.
It's a weird name, and to have that many, 3 names like that. I don't know.
But the fact that just he's over there, and then all of a sudden there shows a lot of interest in Hafley, it just seems as if that Malik Willis is almost destined to go over there. I mean, how crazy would that? We'd basically call that Green Bay 2.0 in the South, right? Like Green Bay 2.0 on the ocean. And that's a crazy thing to think about. But it does kind of seem like the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together, though, a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be a little bit distracted as my Kentucky Wildcats are trying to knock off the Tennessee Vols here in a basketball game. I'm not a big basketball fan, but anytime you get a little bit of bragging rights down here on the home front, it helps. So, and we're getting closer. Anyway, okay, Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. Happy Saturday, guys. If we do lose Hafley, who would be your guys' the preferred new DC? My dream would be Flores, but more realistic, I'd love Raheem Morris. All right, so Jacob, I'll let you answer that first. I think everybody knows what my answer is, but you go first, and then I'll respond.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
and just so you know, Jacob, we're gonna run through a list of guys so you can get a kind of a more educated guess here in a minute. I'm just saying, do you have anybody at the forefront that comes to mind for you?
No, I mean, honestly, those two are kind of probably the ones that are at the top of mine. Brian Flores has just absolutely been incredible wherever he went, as far as just kind of making the defenses play better than what they are on paper. The biggest thing for me is that, there has been some issues with him kind of just stirring the pot, and we won't get into necessarily exactly why, but B-Flow has got a little bit of a reputation behind him where he's not necessarily a team guy, but he does know how to get the most out of his players. So that'd be interesting to see how he could take a guy like Micah, maybe take some guys like Wyatt when he's healthy, Coop, Xavier, Evan, a bunch of these guys, and just absolutely take them to the peak of what their pinnacle could be as those types of players. Raheem Morris obviously makes a lot of sense just because of his ties to Matt LaFleur. And if LaFleur obviously is going to be coming back, which I hope that is the case, that makes a lot more sense to me. If I had to just pick a random name out of a hat that would never even happen, but if I could just if I'm playing Madden and I pick my guy, I just want John Gruden around somewhere. I just want him just being like, here's the deal. You know what I mean? I just want him somewhere doing stuff. I know it's never going to happen. I'm just it just is so fun to think about. Like, what would it be if you had Matt LaFleur on offense and the Grudster on defense, bro? It'd just be fun.
And obviously Gruden has an offensive background, but anytime you've had that much head coaching experience, you'd think you could probably do both. The thing about Gruden is, I think you hit the nail on the head here, man. He's an exciting option, right, at any coaching position. I don't care what the position is, because he's so exciting, right? It's just like, man, he gets everything so amped up, right? And the thing is, the reality, if I remember correctly, his winning percentage is barely over 500. So, we got a fight breaking out. It's a final. Kentucky wins 80-78, and there's a fight breaking out. This is the most glorious thing that could happen. It's the perfect ending. We won, and we get to see fisticuffs. This is unbelievable. So Nick McSwain says, I personally don't want an inside hire for DC. I'm also stupid, though. Well, if you're stupid, you're in the right place. You're amongst friends here. You're amongst other stupid people. Now, I understand what you're saying, Nick. The thing that's giving me a little bit of hope on DeMarcus Covington is he's starting to drum up some interest, right? And we're going to talk about the top veteran candidates and current DCs. And you're going, well, you can't make a lateral move, Clayton. Correct. But, if one of these coaches like Brian Flores, we keep mentioning him because he's not technically under contract, right? Which means he's a free agent. He can sign anywhere. Now, you're going to get into a bidding war with Minnesota and other teams, I'm sure. He's also the favorite to get a head coaching job in 3 different spots as well. So there's a chance that he could be a head coach and off the market. So for me, answering Mike Witt's question, it would and thank you for the super chat, Mike. Appreciate you, man. For me, it would definitely be Brian Flores. That would be at the top. Now, if Robert Saleh's available, would they had a lot of injuries, but their defense was cheeks. And going back to Nick McSwain, I don't want to say cheeks, but they wasn't like upper echelon defense, if I remember correctly. We're going to look at those numbers in a second too. Back to what Nick McSwain said, this defense struggled down the stretch for Green Bay, man. Ever since Micah left, the wheels didn't just fall off. They literally passed you up. Even with all that being said, if you looked at where the Packers defense ranked at the end of the year, it was still pretty good, even though those last 5 or 6 weeks were so bad in terms of scoring defense. So here are some of the top candidates. All right. 3 established names are the heavy hitters in the current cycle. Some are interviewing for current head coaching jobs, while others are prime targets for teams looking for overhaul in their defense. Jesse Minter from the LA Chargers, okay? After a dominant run at Michigan and a strong showing with the Chargers, Minter is arguably the hottest name in the defensive side. He is currently being interviewed for multiple head coaching roles, the Raiders, the Falcons, and other people. Okay, Brian Flores, we just mentioned, despite past controversies, Flores has completely rehabilitated his stock. You guys know it ended kind of bad in Miami. Whether it was his fault, the owner's fault, whoever, it was a bad look for sure. His aggressive, versatile scheme in Minnesota has teams looking at him for both head coach and DC positions. He played his stock perfect. Getting head coaching offers and being a free agent, he's probably going to be the highest paid defensive coordinator this year, I would imagine, if he does not get a head coaching job, which he probably will. Jeff Hafley, you know all about. Vance Joseph with the Denver Broncos, a veteran with head coach experience who has kept the Broncos defense competitive against elite offensive minds like Shanahan, Sean McVay, etc. Obviously, I think he's still under contract, though, Jacob, as a defensive coordinator in Denver. He's getting head coaching offers, or not offers, but interviews. So that's one along with Robert Saleh that probably can't make that lateral move happen. Right. There would have to be some really, really funky stuff go down for you to be able to make that lateral move happen. If you're wondering what that means, guys, it's real simple. You cannot hire someone else's coordinator laterally. It has to be an elevation. Now, there's been some people that says you can make them assistant head coach, and that's technically an elevation. Others said, no, it's not. I don't think we've actually seen a situation where a guy went somewhat laterally, but became the assistant head coach. And that's how a team was able to get around that, because most of the time, if they're that valuable, the current team would just promote them to assistant head coach. So it's kind of rare that even takes place. Here are some of the next gen candidates. Okay. All my Wisconsin Badger fans are going to get real excited right now. Okay. Here we go. Jim Leonhard. You heard that name before, right? Broncos pass game coordinator, highly respected from Wisconsin, D.C., viewed as a future star. Obviously, Jim Leonhard, he was offered – I want to say he was offered the job. No, he wasn't offered the job. He was one of the top candidates for Matt LaFleur in a previous cycle, all right? So keep in mind him, passing game coordinator in Denver, which they play so well, right? Zach Orr, Ravens defensive coordinator. So that whole staff gets let go. Now, they could hire him back as the head coach. Who knows? I don't think they want to. He's only 33 years old. He's one of the youngest coordinators and being interviewed by Dallas. Keep in mind, Zach Orr was one of our top choices last time when we picked Hafley. Remember, Jacob? Zach Orr kept popping up. Yeah. DeMarcus Covington, the Packers defensive line coach, former Patriots assistant with DC experience, high upside candidate. He seems to be the one in-house that's getting the most attention in terms of Packer coaches. I cannot say that first name there, so we'll just say Banda, the Browns safeties coach, key part of the Cleveland secondary that was one of the NFL's best in 2025. Obviously, they had a solid defense, horrible offense. There's a chance that their defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, ends up getting the head coaching job there. Chris Harris, Jets defensive back coach, interim DC. Remember, he was on the short list for the Packers before, too. He finished the 2025 season. Colin plays for the Jets and is a strong internal candidate there. And then, Araujo, if I'm saying that right, the Dolphins cornerback coach, a fast riser in the Miami system who has helped lead a top 5 defensive unit as well. So those are some of the kind of next-gen candidates, Jacob. Does anybody there? I'm going to put your feet to the fire here. Along with Raheem Morris, I just did a quick write-up on him. We'll talk about him in a little more detail in a second. Along with Raheem Morris, if you had to pick one of these guys, you have to pick from this list, who would be your top choice for your next defensive coordinator?
Man, to be honest, I mean, I like the idea of Jim Leonhard, but I just feel like that he doesn't have necessarily like kind of the track record in the NFL. Like, you know, he's been there with the Broncos and all that. And if I had my druthers, I think I'd pick DeMarcus Covington just because he's familiar with our guys. Kind of understands what the locker room feels like. That's maybe what I would prefer, but I don't think that that's honestly going to happen as well. Because of like, if Hafley goes, I just feel like that he's going to be able to pick quite a few guys that are going to just, you know, I don't want to say tag along because that seems like a negative connotation there. I just mean that like people believe in Hafley for a reason. So if a lot of his guys that he's kind of brought up and been coaching with and had experience with, I feel like they're going to follow, what they think is a leader. And I think that he is a leader of men. And, but none of those really like pop off the page to me. The Jim Leonhard thing is intriguing for sure, but it is surprising that he didn't want to come. Was it that he didn't want to come or that he just basically chose at the time? Was it he chose to be with the Badgers again? Is that what it was?
Here's what I heard is the reason that he turned down the Packers job is there was rumors that Mike Pettin, if you guys don't know, Mike Pettin and Jim Leonhard are kind of close. And when Mike Pettin left Green Bay, him and Matt LaFleur really butted heads big time, okay, when he left. Now, anyone who wants to perform revisionist history and try to blame Matt LaFleur for Mike Pettin leaving, I remember the Fire Mike Pettin crew, okay? Yeah. So let's not sit here and now all of a sudden pretend like Mike Pettin was a dominant defensive coordinator. It just wasn't the case. So when Matt offered Jim Leonhard the job, if he did indeed offer it, and again, all this is just kind of rumor speculation, that Mike Pettin probably stepped in, which is kind of a mentor to Jim Leonhard. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know how much is true. You guys do your own research, as we always say here. So I think that's what happened there. Now, Raheem Morris, Jacob, this is an interesting one. Raheem Morris, in this cycle, his status recently changed after 2 seasons as a head coach at Atlanta Falcons. The team officially parted ways with him on January 4th, 2026, following an 8-9 finish. While he was fired as head coach, his reputation as a defensive mind remains high, making him a major factor in the current hiring cycle. Head coaching interviews. He has got head coaching interviews despite the exit in Atlanta. Looks like the New York Giants. He's scheduled to interview with the Cardinals and the Titans as well. a defensive coordinator option. If he does not land a head coaching gig, he is considered a home run hire for a DC opening. Specifically, the Minnesota Vikings has emerged as a strong potential fit if their current DC, Brian Flores, leaves. So if Brian Flores gets a head coaching job somewhere, all of a sudden, Raheem Morris is going to skyrocket to the top of one of the top defensive coordinator spots, if that makes sense. A potential media pivot.
Interesting comment here from Gat X Boy. He says, y'all done want Raheem Morris, this is coming from a Falcons fan.
Yeah. And this is the thing too, and appreciate you tuning in, man. And I'm not saying you're right and we're wrong. People said the same thing about Jeff Hafley coming from BC because he didn't have success as a head coach. You know, some guy, well, look at this. The New England Patriots are going to play, I think a little later here today, right? I don't know what time they kick off. Josh McDaniels was a laughing stock of the league. He had 2 stints as a head coach, and he was horrible in both places, got fired real quick. He goes back to New England as the offensive coordinator, and he torches it, right? Like he's just on fire again. He's got Drake May playing MVP caliber football. So some guys are just – I believe some guys are just meant to be coordinators as opposed to head coaches, right? And that's definitely a different type of animal there for sure. There's also a potential media pivot. There are reports that if the right coaching opportunity doesn't materialize, Morris would transition to television. He's highly regarded. His charismatic personality and industry insiders suggest he has standing interest with major networks. If you guys are wondering, the comment that I always make about Mike Tomlin was a special interview, I think, with Peter Schrager, and him and Raheem Morris were in on that interview together, a media interview, not a job coaching interview. So they had a media interview together, and that's where they said, yeah, we used to say things all the time in coaches' rooms that you couldn't get away with today. And one of those things were, if you're race sensitive, you're a racist. And that one, it got a good pop out of me. I love the fact that Mike Tomlin said that him and Raheem Morris always said, if you're race sensitive, you're a racist. And what that means is it goes both ways, right? If all you look at is race, everything is about race. Well, he didn't get an offer because of race, or you're not interviewing someone because of their race. And anything involving race is race. If you're race sensitive on both sides, then you're a racist by default. I love that line because in 2026, that's not a popular take, from someone who is trying to break into coaching as a minority coach or what have you. It's just simply, can we all just stop talking about race and literally just forget about it, please, instead of constantly bringing it up on both sides, positive and negative. So that's why I like Raheem Morris and Mike Tomlin and their attitude toward that stuff. Those are 2 guys that they didn't get head coaching jobs because of race. They worked their ass off. And I think that it kind of ticks them off that they look around and some people maybe do get an opportunity because the pendulum swung in the opposite direction in that regard. So really, really like Raheem Morris in that regard. And that's another reason why he's, like I said, a potential media candidate there as well. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you so much, Mike. I think a DC would be very interested in Green Bay because of Micah. Ooh, imagine Jim Schwartz in Green Bay. Oh, now you're speaking my language, man. Look at what he did with Myles Garrett. Think he could get similar results with Micah? Absolutely, I think he could, man. Myles Garrett is a dog. Myles Garrett is a much larger beast than Micah, a more well-rounded edge defender, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that Micah is a twitchier player, right, and maybe more agile in that regard. Myles Garrett is just, man, that dude is a freak of nature too. Yeah. But yeah, I would be okay with Jim Schwartz landing in Green Bay as well. But it sounds like if he doesn't get a head coaching job, and maybe even specifically with Cleveland, he's probably going to want to stay in Cleveland. But again, if you tell him, hey, you can come coach Micah, the only other rebuttal is, I don't know, man, we've been able to put together a better defense here in Cleveland, unless he wants to win a Super Bowl. And in that case, you look over and go, they've got Jordan Love, they got a franchise quarterback. So that's an interesting topic there, Mike. Appreciate the super, man. I'm glad you brought that up. Jacob, you got anything to add to that in terms of Jim Schwartz and that type of thing and what he did with Myles Garrett? Would he want to maybe come coach Micah?
No, I think what you said is very accurate. It's one of those things where it's like, is Myles Garrett that great, or is Jim Schwartz really scheming him up that way? But I think that Myles Garrett is he's just a freak, man. He's impressive. And, if you want to have that conversation of like, who's the best, edge / DN / all around defensive player in the league, it is going to probably come down to Chad. Come on, man. It's going to come down to Myles and Micah, which is crazy to think about that. And, what would have happened if, imagine, the fact that Jeff Hafley is over here is getting head coach interviews when Micah went down halfway, basically when we started to need him at the utmost point, and when our team absolutely went on a, the 5-game skid where I was talking to my dad about it, man. That's since I almost swore, since I was like 4 years old, like 1992 basically is like when I remember the Packers. I don't remember another 5-game slid that was harder than this. Like it was tough, especially losing twice in the Bears the way that we did. It's been tough. And if you would tell me that, the defensive coordinator that was in charge of that while it happened is going to go on and get like a lot of head coaching bids and all that kind of stuff, I'd say you're crazy. But when you have a guy like Micah Parsons that absolutely is just a freak of nature, it kind of makes your resume look even maybe a little better than it should on paper, just because of the stuff that maybe you did earlier when people kind of highlighted how good that defense was at the time. Obviously, now that we lost him, it slid a little bit, but between him and Myles Garrett, it's a toss up, man. It's anybody's game.
Nick McSwain says, I haven't seen news on Packers interviewing anyone. I might have missed it. I haven't either, Nick. That's what surprised me about Garofalo, that said behind the scenes the Packers are doing work there. To me, the first thing I thought was Raheem Morris, because him and Matt are pretty close, right? And then it also thought, well, in-house, you're not going to hear about it, right? And also, I think we would all agree that the main storyline has been, is Matt coming back or not, right? So that's probably dwarfed that a little bit as well. So when you look at the rankings here and some of the potential guys that we mentioned, right? If we were to go back up to the top, let's talk about some of these guys we don't know much about. Jim Leonard, obviously with the Broncos, right? So let's go Jim Leonard and Zach Orr, right? So let's go Broncos and Ravens. When you go scoring defense, the Broncos are 3rd in scoring defense, okay? And the Ravens are 15th. So obviously you would think that Jim Leonard would be the better choice there. When you go yardage, Denver's number 1, okay? Baltimore is all the way down to 21 spot. So when you look at the rankings, it's like, okay, just because they're ranked so much lower don't mean that Zach Orr wouldn't be a good hire. But if I had to choose between those two, it'd be Jim Leonard, Now, let's talk about DeMarcus Covington. If he is the top choice, right? Or Bonda with the Browns, okay? If he is the top choice, Covington, how did Green Bay finish? Do we really want to hire from within? This is what Nick was talking about, because the defense struggled down the stretch. But these are the overall 2025 stats, okay? Green Bay finished 10th in scoring defense, and yards per play, they finished 10th as well, actually tied for 7th. So a little bit better number there, right? And then when you look at Cleveland, they were 5th, just ahead of the Packers, just 1 spot ahead, as a matter of fact, in yards per play allowed. But scoring, they dropped significantly on points per play, down to 17th. Now, was that their offense's fault? Was it the defense's? You have to dive into the tape and look there. So if I had to choose between DeMarcus Covington and Bonda, if you keep Covington, you don't have to change things up dramatically, right, Jacob? Because, your guys, it's like they're going to have their 3rd year in the system. You're still going to be running the same Hafley system, theoretically speaking. If you bring in Bonda, is he going to change the defensive scheme up? Is it going to be a 34? Is it going to be a 43? We don't have the time to dive into all that. It does matter, though. I don't want to, minimize the aspect there, but maybe that sets you back a little bit, making an adjustment. But also, just like we said with Jeff Hafley, first year as a DC, when you bring a new system in, typically first-year DCs do pretty well. Second year, they take a step back, right? So would it be a first-year jump because you're bringing in a new scheme, a new system from the Browns, or would it be, hey, let's keep what we got going on and make the adjustment to the adjustment to the adjustment, if you will? So that's really interesting. But Jets and Dolphins, a couple others there, Chris Harris and Arajo, if you were to look at them, so it was Jets and Dolphins, right? So New York Jets, if I can find them. Yeah, they were 29th in scoring in terms of points per play. And then yards per play, they were 24th. So, 23rd. I'm not interested in the Jets guy at all. So it would probably be Dolphins next would be Miami. They would finish 25th in scoring. And then Miami finished, where are they at? 26th in yards per play allowed. So for me, Jacob, it's real simple. If I had to choose off of this list right here, so this does not include Raheem Morris, I would go Jim Leonard, DeMarcus Covington, or Bonda. If I had to choose between those 3, I think I'm leaning toward Covington, just keeping Covington, to be honest with you. Now, Flores, different ball game. Schwartz, different ball game. Different, you know what I mean?
Right.
They would be slam dunk hires, but right now we got to assume they're not going to be available. What were you going to say, man?
No, I was just Chad Eng posed a question earlier. He said, "Does Morris run a 3-4 or a 4-3?" Do you know that off the top of your brain?
I don't. I'll find out right now, though.
Because that was, that is, like you said, it's an interesting concept. Like, as to what are we going to do with this like the staff that we already have, the squad we already have. Like, have we been drafting in a certain situational type aspect where we have, linebackers that play more for a 4-3 or a 3-4? I think that you would argue that we have a decent edge room, but I don't know if those guys can necessarily, make that immediate switch where that they have to kind of be more of like a stack backer type situation.
So in today's NFL, it's a lot more blended than it has been in the past. The answer that AI gave me was they run a multiple front. So it's a blend of 34 and 43. Newsflash, Hafley actually ran a blend of 34 and 43. Like we talked about it throughout the year, right? So it's more about how you construct your roster. So it's an important question. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to minimize the question there. But in today's NFL, you're getting more and more defenses that are running those multiple looks. So 34, when you think 34, when I think 34, I think, 2000s, 2010, when you had just a heavy 34 set, especially in the 90s as well, where it's like you're going to play base on first down. Well, I don't want to say 90% of the time. A good chunk of the time, you're going to be in 11 personnel, or they're going to be in 11 personnel. You're going to be in your nickel. So who gives a rat's ass if it's a 34 defense or not, right? Because you're going to have two big body defensive linemen and two fast edge rushers on the side, or edge defenders in general. That stuff kind of comes into play a little bit. But the league is already pressing into 12 a little bit more because the EPA per pass out of 12 personnel is through the roof. So maybe it will start to matter again. And this is why we say all the time, Jacob, the league is cyclical. Yeah. Something that wasn't popular 5 years ago, it may be coming back. It's just the constant recycling of ideas, old schemes with a little blend of new schemes, all that stuff, right? So until it gets back to like it was in the 90s and even, the 70s and 80s when this stuff was really, really prevalent, until it gets back to that point, I don't think we need to worry too much about, is it a rigid 3-4 or 4-3?
Okay. Can I ask a question quick? Because listening to your podcast earlier, talking about how you have like certain blue chip positions, blue chip players, that kind of thing. Your argument for being a 3-tech being like, that's one of the top of the top. Does that change if the NFL's if you're talking about, if they're moving more towards like a heavy set or a 12 personnel or that kind of thing? Does that change who your who your positional players are that you would rather draft, or does that still stay the same with you? Like, you want your 3-tech, you want your center, you want your quarterback, you want, what I'm saying? Like,
no, yeah, it's 3-tech. Essentially what a 3-tech is it's not a nose tackle. A nose tackle, and nose tackles are important, don't get me wrong. But if you were to ask me which is more important, a nose tackle or a 3-tech, it's definitely a 3-tech because it's a passing league. You want a guy who can line up in the B gap, right? You want a guy that can line up in the B gap or outside shoulder, or even head up on the guard and have another guy, your nose, in the A gap or playing shade. And the reason being is you want that big body to help run stuff. And I'm going to tell you something, guys. Something that's went under the radar, in my opinion, is Kobe Wooden. I think Kobe Wooden played pretty damn good this year. Like, when you look at his run stop rate that he had this year playing nose, the general, obviously he's under contract next year. Keep an eye on him. I don't think we have a dramatic need at nose, but 3-tech, I want that dominant 3-tech. To answer your question, Jacob, the point of the 3-tech is you want a guy that can rush the passer, but you don't want a guy that's just a pass rush specialist at 3-tech. You want to be able to play the run too. Devontae White can rush the passer, but he's a little bit lacking when it comes to the run defense. So are you going to pay him top 3-tech money? Probably not. Although the Packers did slap him with a 5th-year option, I think that was more about that would save them money as opposed to them having to give him a contract extension. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. It would not change my mind if that was the question, because we are not. It's not the 90s. We're not going to come out and play a 34 defense on first down just because it's first down. You're going to mix and match. And I do think no matter how much teams press into 12 and 21 personnel, because it's trending right now, I don't foresee where, even a third of the league is going to be playing base 12 and 21 on offense more than they're playing 3 wide receiver
Right.
sets, which is 11 personnel.
Yeah, you know what? I don't remember if they ran a 3-4. I think it had to be a 4-3. But when they had the Williams wall in Minnesota, remember when Pat Williams and Kevin Williams were just
Mhm.
two absolute just beasts?
Yep.
Like, is that something that you can even implement nowadays in the NFL, or like, do you think if they went to a 12 or a heavy personnel, that's the type of people you need to bring in, kind of thing, or
Yeah,
necessarily you don't have quite a nose or a 3, you just have two giant big hog mollies out there,
right. Yeah, they were that you can't coach size. And I
Right.
remember them talking about how big they called them. What do they call them? Mountain
It
Williams
was
or
the
something.
Williams wall.
Yeah, it was something crazy. Like, yeah, if you give me 2 3 techs, right, and one is 6'3", 300 pounds, and the other one is 6'6", 330 pounds, and they're equal talent, give me the big boy, right? That's what was so interesting about them. Just because somebody's big doesn't mean they're going to be good, and you're not going to sign somebody just because they're big. I mean, they'll do it because players, you can't coach size. You hear that said all the time, right? But if a player can't play, it don't matter. I mean, he may be 6'7", 350 pounds. If he gets his ass kicked in the trenches every down, it don't matter how big he is, right? And it's more so about leverage as well, which is like there's been great players in the past. Aaron Donald, right? Aaron Donald was short, and it's he's short. He doesn't have long arm. He doesn't have this. Watch him on the football field. I mean, that dude was dominant, right? So, but yeah, when you think back to the Williams wall there, they were just big and talented. And if you guys correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to spread rumors here. Allegedly, I'm pretty sure one or both of them got popped for performance enhancers. I believe toward the backside of their career too. It was like, oh, now it makes sense. They were they might have been juicing it up. Mike Witt with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. How about bring Al Harris home to Green Bay as DC? That's what my wife been saying. She said, it's Al Harris. I'm like, have you looked at their rankings? Chicago's defense is cheeks. This is what I tried to explain to her the other day. She said, but they're taking the ball away. I'm like, she been paying attention this year. It's pissing me off. I ain't gonna lie. But it ain't just about takeaways. Takeaways is the most important stat, but is it a little bit of luck? Look at all the takeaways we had last year. What happened this year? Did our guys play bad? They started dropping passes, right? Okay, why did they drop them this year but not last year? Could be that we might have got a little bit lucky last year, right? So you get a little bit of that in. But when you look at the defensive rankings here with Chicago's 23rd in points per play allowed, and Chicago is 29th in yards per play allowed. So that would be a no for me on Al Harris being DC. It doesn't mean he can't be a good DC. I just don't want to test it out, Jacob. I don't want to test out a first-time defensive coordinator. You know what I mean? Covington would be a second-time defensive coordinator with the only year he was DC. It was bad. It was bad performance for the Patriots, but everything was bad in that organization before Vrabel showed up. I don't know how you feel about Al Harris being DC. Would you be okay with it? Give it a shot, or I just kind of feel like we're in a 3-year window. We're in year 2 of a 3-year Super Bowl window, and I don't want to kind of test stuff out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense to me. As much as don't get me wrong, I love Al Harris. I love him. I remember watching the game where basically was it Castle or Hasselbeck sitting there. Oh, we want the ball. We're going to score. And Mr. Al Harris just absolutely just housed that boy and looked him right in the face. I was in my grandparents' basement just screaming at the top of my lungs. From that day forth, I was an Al Harris fan. I got pictures of him all over my wall in the background here. Love the guy to death. That being said, like you said, did some good stuff in Dallas. Obviously doing some good stuff now. To your point, we have a window here that is very, I don't want to say tight or fleeting, but I don't want to risk that type of performance that we could have with a guy that isn't tested. And not to say that he's not a good coach or inspire of men or whatever.
Maybe great.
He looks like he could do the part. It's just I'm not necessarily willing to put all my eggs in that basket. So I would humbly, respectfully say thank you for your interest, but at the time, not now. Come talk to me now and maybe 2-3 more seasons when maybe you have a bigger resume that we can actually kind of go off of. But as of right now, I agree. I think it may be just kind of putting the cart before the horse type stuff.
Yeah, and there is a tweet from Garofolo. It was an hour ago. Meanwhile, sources say the Packers have begun work on defensive coordinators as they expect Jeff Hafley is going to be get the head coaching job. All right, so they need to hire a DC. Just wanted to throw that out there. I'm just trying to comb through and see the latest in the news here. Make sure we're not missing anything. One more here. So that was Packers news. Let me just go to NFL news and make sure nothing's popped here in the last few minutes. We'll get ready to wrap this up. Eagles requesting an interview with the Colts offensive coordinator. I love this, best name in football, Jim Bob Cooter. Bob Cooter. It's a family program there, Mike Garofolo. We can't say that on the air. Titans have second interviews with Matt Nagy, Jeff Hafley, and Kevin Stefanski this upcoming week. So he's getting second interviews with the Titans as well. Hafley's pretty much gone. We can all say that now. So
yeah,
that looks like the latest on everything as we get ready for some football. About to kick off in 2 minutes. We got to go, boys. One last super chat here, Joe Trev. We had a lot of takeaways in 2011, but in the playoffs, Eli didn't turn it over a lot. I think just one turnover, the defense couldn't get stops. The defense in 2010 was the best defense in the league. 2011, it did kind of feel like it was starting to taper off a little bit. People had caught on to Dom Capers too, right? You kind of caught them off guard a little bit with bringing back the old Blitzburg defense, the zone blitz scheme, which I grew up watching with my brother being a Steelers fan. And I was over the moon when I never forget that phone call I made to my brother, man. I was like, bro, guess who they just hired as DC in Green Bay? He's like, who? I'm like, your boy Dom Capers. He went, no way. I said, guess who the defensive backs coach is? Who? Darren Perry. I said, guess who's going to coach the pass rushers? Kevin freaking Green. He was like, you serious? I'm like, Dom Capers basically said, all of my good players who played for me in the 90s, let's go win a damn Super Bowl at the title town. It was awesome. So I appreciate the super there, Joe.
Rest in peace, Kevin Green, by the way. Man, what a freaking stud.
Yeah, he was awesome. So, Jacob, anything else you want to hit before we wrap up, man?
No, not really. I mean, it is I usually turn off of football once the Packers are done. I just for whatever reason, it just kind of takes a lot out of me. But I am interested to see what's going to happen. Bunch of good matchups, I believe, today. What are we going to have? We're going to have Bills and Broncos at 3:30, 49ers Seahawks at 7 o'clock. That is going to be amazing. And then, obviously, you guys know I'm going to hate watch these Bears-Rams matchup. That's going to be tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. time Central. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous is that, golly, the LA Rams going to the Bears, it sounds like it's going to be about 3 degrees with the wind chill. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, that is crazy. But you know what? I think the football gods will probably, hopefully, take over. Jesus, take the wheel. Please do not let the Bears advance anymore, because I can't do that, man. I just can't. They can't beat us the way they did those 2 times and go on and win the Super Bowl. I will just poop in my hat. I can't do it.
There you go. We got Bo Nix warming up out there a few minutes ago. So obviously they're getting ready to get this thing kicked off in Denver. Looks like it's going to be beautiful weather out there. Mike Witt with the super. Just hire someone from the Texan staff and go, hey, no argument here, Mike. No argument here. That Texan staff is humming. And who is it? Is it Dirt? I can't remember who it is. We ain't got time to dive into it. There's one guy that's the defensive coordinator for the Texans. I'm getting the names mixed up between him and Seattle from time to time. But he's one that's going to emerge, I believe, if they're eliminated or as soon as they can interview for him. He would probably be one of, if not the top defensive candidates. So I'm sure Miami kind of feels like they might be settling a little bit, hiring Jeff Hafley. But at the same time, John Eric Sullivan's seen that firsthand. He knows Coach Hafley is head coaching material for sure. But appreciate you, Mike. I don't disagree with that at all. All right, guys, we're out of here. If anything else pops, we'll go live. I got to go have dinner with the family here in a little bit, but if I get home in time tonight, we may do another live stream a little bit later. If anything does pop, I may go live while I'm over there at the family dinner, and they're just going to get over it. We may see the selfie mode, Jacob, talking Packers out there like this at the dinner if we have to.
It's good mode, man. Look good.
Hopefully we get the contract done with Matt LaFleur. Let's get us a DC in-house as soon as Hafley does announce that he gets the job with the Dolphins, which I think we're all expecting. So appreciate everybody. Thank you all so much for the super chats. Michael Witt, Joe Trev, you guys are awesome. Nick McSwain, Chad Inc., everybody in the chat, y'all jumping in there early and talking ball with us. Too many to shout out, but thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. If you would, hit like, hit subscribe, click the bell icon. Make sure you're notified whenever we go live in the future when news breaks. That's Jacob. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.